Hello, Gay Milwaukee. Jinx here. And today on the show, we have our first returning guest, Chairman of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County, Chris Walton.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm in need of a haircut, but, that's just the times we live in right now.
You and me both. As you see times that we live in, we're doing this virtually. Got to, social distance, right?
Right, exactly.
I take it
we'll be able to get back outside by summer.
Has this become the new normal for you too? Just doing everything over the virtual online?
Basically, yeah. It's been interesting. It's been interesting, but it's what we have to do in order for us to get back out this summer and be able to really enjoy all the stuff and all the reasons that Milwaukee is great during the summer. We got to stay in the house for right now. So we got to do what we got to do.
A couple weeks ago, we had that very controversial election. It made national news. And a lot of our people in the Democratic office were on the front lines of this. Can you tell us about what happened?
Right. So we ended up having our spring general primary, our spring general election and our presidential primary this past April 7th. And this is something that was scheduled to happen already, but it was probably not the best thing to happen. But we had a lot of different elections on the ballot that we had to take care of. We were trying to seek out different options. Governor Evers actually requested that they try to postpone the election, or at least turn it into all mail-in ballot election. And the Republicans in the state legislature would not cooperate. So we kind of ran into a situation where we were damned if we do or damned if we don't. And we had to just carry on. And thankfully, hopefully a lot of people haven't gotten sick from this. And I haven't heard exactly as of right now as we're recording of a lot of people getting sick, thankfully, from being out there on election day. But we really took a big risk that, I hate that it happened like that. But we also had a lot of stuff that we had to get done. And thankfully, due to the results of the election, we actually flipped the Wisconsin State Supreme Court seat. So we'll have more backup to actually help us on stuff like that. Because the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, it was 5-2 Republican majority, and they voted like it, and they agreed that the governor was wrong and said that we couldn't postpone the election. We had to have it. Same way with this federal U.S. Supreme Court. 5-4 Republicans said, yeah, this election must go on, and all the other stuff that came about from that. So we definitely, elections have consequences, and so do actions. And I think from the actions that they forced Wisconsin to go and vote, they saw what the consequences of forcing people to vote would be, and they had a pretty rough night. But we had some pretty big historical changes. David Crowley got elected as the first African American elected as the county executive here in Milwaukee. Another historical first, Milwaukee got its first openly LGBT member of the city council, with Jocasta Zamaripa getting elected. So that's a pretty big deal. And we elected, and it's really interesting because Wisconsin State Supreme Court now is 6 women and 1 man. So I think we have the most female-run Supreme Court in the state in the nation now. So we got some good results. I'm looking forward to seeing where this will take us going forward, though. And hopefully, as time gets closer to the next elections in August and in November, we will have this coronavirus thing either taken down, or we will have moved to make better decisions on how we will hold these upcoming elections.
Well, in the event, considering the fact everyone's saying this is the new normal, how do we ensure everyone can have to exercise their right to vote safely and feel represented, given the fact that this might be possible? Right.
Honestly, I would encourage everybody to sign up for an absentee ballot right now. You can sign up for the ballot at myvote.wi.gov. And they will actually, there's an option you can sign up to get a ballot for all of the remaining elections going in August and in November. So if you are interested in signing up for a ballot, please do it now and sign up at myvote.wi.gov. There's been some talk of the City Election Commission actually sending out absentee ballot applications to every registered voter in the city of Milwaukee for the upcoming elections in August and November. So if they do it, great. If they don't, we gotta make sure that make sure people get their ballots.
It's very important because for what I've been hearing, and it's starting to come more to light, this is more so going to affect more impoverished communities, particularly the Black community, particularly the people that don't have access or internet to like look these things up as much. Thoughts on that?
I wish, hopefully if the city is able to actually send out applications to everybody to request an absentee ballot going into the election, that'll make it so much easier. But a lot of people who are the most vulnerable people who would be disenfranchised, they move a lot. So even if you send every registered voter in the city of Milwaukee an absentee ballot, they may have moved. So you don't know where exactly you're sending that absentee ballot request application to. But hopefully, if they do decide to send those applications out to everybody who is a registered voter, we can get most people to sign up for that. And that would cut out a lot of the issues that we have. There are like 5 states out west, Washington, Colorado, California even, that do all mail-in ballots. So if a state like California, the largest state in the country, can do mail-in, I'm sure the city of Milwaukee can do mail-in ballots. We just have to get everybody to sign up for it and just encourage them to turn those ballots back in when they do sign up for them.
I like that because I think that's very, I want to say it's kind of missed a bit because I'm not sure everyone knows that, and that's a good thing that's coming their way because that does make or break an election, in my opinion. It can very much change the tide. On that same note, as we know, the governor and legislator were not in agreement about this election, and they didn't seem to come to an agreement about this pandemic. We talked about that. How are we supposed to see positive change for the future? I mean, one of the examples I can give is the Republicans are threatening legal action against the governor for shelter in place. What to expect?
This goes right back to make sure you request those absentee ballots. Make sure that you get those ballots out there and you vote because it's becoming the Republicans are trying to make this a partisan thing. And this isn't a partisan thing. This is literally about public health. If we reopen everything right now and release everybody back out into the streets, we know exactly what's going to happen. The levels of people catching coronavirus are going to spike. Sadly, the White House and the administration in Washington hasn't been really doing what they're supposed to be doing and making sure that we have the tests to actually test people. Where are the tests? We can't in good faith just start sending millions of people back out in the streets and we can't test properly. And sadly, the Republicans want to make this issue because they know the fact that the economy has collapsed under their watch and they need the economy to get up and running again, which is, where are your priorities? Do you want people to be sick or do you want people to go spend money? I personally, and I believe I can speak as chair of the party for all Democrats here in Milwaukee, we'd rather see everybody be well. Make sure they're being taken care of and their health is good, as opposed to go out there and spend money. We have to make sure everybody's going to be safe.
It does seem like a culture war.
There's no safety. There is no health.
It does seem like a culture war in the regards where there's a lot of people that want this to get better and us to do the right slow way, and there's some that want to just jump back into work. And I'm not saying anyone's wrong. Everyone has their reasons. I don't know everyone's, financial status at this moment, but it is very divisive right now. And do you think we're going to find common ground?
I sure hope so. It just seems like a pretty reasonable issue of common ground, but people surprise you sometimes. And if they want to there are people talking about protesting, and if they want to protest, that's fine. Hopefully, they will socially distance themselves while protesting. If not, we can't lock them in the house. So I wish they would take actually listen to science and medical advice and be safer at home, but they're going to do what they're going to do and they'll live with the consequences of their actions.
Right. Let's switch it to something a bit more positive, because talking about the epidemic can be a little, I don't want to say redundant, but it's on everyone's mind thickly right now.
Right.
Switch it up. So as everyone knows, Biden is the nominee right now, and Senator Sanders is endorsing him. That's great news. I mean, because Sanders has quite a bit of a flack from last election.
Right.
Do you think this is going to bring the party together?
I do hope so. I think that Vice President Biden has really shown that he's a great candidate. I think he is somebody who definitely can defeat President Trump. I hope he will defeat him. He has my full support and endorsement. I'll do everything I can, whether I'm behind the camera or if I'm actually released back out into the wild to go knock on doors to make sure he is the next president of the United States. I think that we are in a position right now, especially even now with the coronavirus, we're seeing what the world looks like without presidential leadership. The fact that he believes that we should cut money from the World Health Organization because they were, quote unquote, not on top of this, even though he has been less than on top of this whole situation from the beginning, it says a lot. And I think that, Joe Biden will be able to show what leadership looks like. He's been a U.S. Senator. He's been the Vice President of the United States. He has been there in the room with President Obama, making those life and death decisions, helping with the Obama administration to actually push back when H1N1 became a thing and a global pandemic, and didn't make it all the way to this level because we had a proactive White House actually pushing back to make sure stuff didn't get bad. The fact that when Vice President Biden, during the Obama-Biden administration, we had Ebola, a much more deadly disease actually land here in the United States and Texas, and we had a U.S. case, and the people who caught Ebola and were here in the United States didn't die. And the fatality rate of Ebola is somewhere up in the upper 90s. And the fact that we were able to actually get things done, work with our scientific and medical field experts, and make sure that these people, they didn't die, they didn't pass it on, and actually come up with a vaccine to actually stop the virus from spreading. It says a lot about the two parties in this nation. We have one party that believes in science and medicine, and we have another party that believes in the bottom dollar of what could be done. Both sides, a lot of people like to say, it's both sides. It's not both sides. One side believes climate change is real. One side believes climate change is a hoax. One side believes we should all be released back out to the streets right now and just deal with the coronavirus as it is. Another side believes we should actually stay in the house and make sure this is done, and we listen to our scientific and medical experts, and then we go back out. There's no two sides there's no both sides are wrong on this. There's one side that is clearly right and one side that is clearly wrong, and we need people to understand that. And I think that Vice President Biden is going to be an amazing president, and he's going to be able to clearly articulate the fact that what is happening, we are all in it together. We're going to rebuild the soul of this nation, and we're going to actually be able to have faith in our leadership again, that they're not going to get us all killed.
Well, with that in mind, a lot of people are placing their bets on Biden. A lot of people have faith in him. But with the lockdown in place and there aren't any campaign rallies, and it seems for the guy in the White House, he has his daily briefings that come off like rallies. What are your thoughts, and how is this going to impact us?
Right. So I know that Vice President Biden has been doing some events on social media, doing a lot of visual events. He has recently he's actually doing an event, I believe that's tonight, with the LGBT community. He's been doing visual fundraisers, still doing talk shows and everything. They set up a TV studio in his home, kind of like mine right now. And they're making it very possible for him to be out there and doing outreach as much as he can, considering the situation right now. This isn't the ideal way we'd be out campaigning and knocking on doors. Would be preferable, but this is where we are right now, so we're going to make it work as best we can. And, honestly, I think it's a good thing because now it'll allow him to be in certain spaces and see and be in touch with even more people than he could in only one small event. You can do a campaign rally in Milwaukee, you can do a campaign rally in St. Louis, but it's one thing to be online and the entire world can see you doing a campaign event and hear you speaking about the issues that are important. So it kind of cuts both ways, but me personally, I'm a little old school. I prefer to be out there knocking on doors and doing these giant campaign rallies. They're a lot more fun.
Well, not to mention it's worked in the past and it still works today.
Right.
So on that note, the convention is a big deal. It's huge. As we know what's going on in the world right now, there are a lot of things being canceled and delayed. Should we still expect it?
I'm hoping we still get we got the convention. I'm hoping that the convention hopefully things have gotten back to normal or starting to get back to normal where we can actually have this big of a big party showing how Milwaukee has survived the coronavirus and we're still making waves and moving forward. I think there'd be no better story than showing the fact that Milwaukee is rising again, no matter what is happening, and we're recovering from all of the stuff that's happening. But we have to listen to the scientific and health community and see what they think is best. If they think it's probably best at that time and the coronavirus hasn't begun to subside, that we have a virtual convention, then we have to do what we have to do. Ideally, in a perfect world, I completely want to see 50,000 people show up here in Milwaukee and spend some money and enjoy our beautiful city. And I would love to be there with them to do it. But we got to do what's best for everybody. It's not just about us. But my first vote is always to have just a traditional convention.
Chairman Walton, I have one last question for you. So
Absolutely.
This is super important. I feel that, especially with last election in the back of our minds, a lot of people didn't feel represented last time around, particularly Senator Sanders' party and people. What advice can you give to them for those that feel they've given up or don't really feel convinced about Biden? What can we say to kind of make sure that you are represented right now?
Right. A lot of the issues that Senator Sanders campaigned on, Vice President Biden is adopting a lot of those issues, trying to increase the size of Medicare. There's been talk of lowering the eligibility age down to about 60 instead of it being at 65. Talking about doing more to alleviate the problems of student loan debt. Especially coming out of this crisis, the younger millennial generation, such as ourselves, we've been hit by the Great Recession in 2008 when we were in college, and now we're getting smacked by what looks like it could potentially be the second Great Depression. And like, how can we ever? What happens with us? We can't afford to do anything, and on top of that, we're being smashed by student loan debt. And so Vice President Biden recently just put out a proposal of forgiving student loan debt and making sure that people who come from families that make less than $125,000 a year actually can go to college and not have to worry about that, to get rid of that debt and to make it free for those. So I think those are advances and reaches to make sure to bring in the Sanders people. Also, he just recently picked up the bankruptcy plan and proposals from Senator Warren, making sure that you can actually, if you can't afford issues like student loans or something, you can put them on bankruptcy if you have to file for bankruptcy. Making it easier to be a member of the middle class. And I think right now, especially as the economy is doing bad at the moment, thanks to the laissez-faire attitudes of the Trump administration, we have to make things work. A lot of people, President Obama recently just announced his endorsement of Vice President Biden. And one of the things that he said, right, I was so happy about that. One of the things that he said is the fact that Vice President Biden has the most progressive policy agenda and platform that any Democratic presidential nominee has ever had, including his back in 2008. And President Obama said it, I think he said it best, my platform from 2008 isn't the same platform now. Back in 2008, none of the candidates for the Democratic Party nomination supported marriage equality. Now it's like, well, that's just, of course you support marriage equality. Right. Things progress. We have to allow them to progress. We can't just stand, I'm just rigid right here, and this is how it's supposed to be. If you aren't growing and becoming more educated and moving forward, why are you alive, first and foremost, if you're not still growing and learning? That was one of the things that I was taught growing up. As long as you're growing and learning, you're supposed to still be here. If you're not growing and learning, what are you doing here? You're just holding up space. So the fact that, the policy agenda that Vice President Biden has going forward is a lot more progressive than the policy agenda that Senator Obama had in 2008. It's a lot more than President Obama had in 2012. It's more than Secretary Clinton had in 2016. So, times keep changing and they keep moving forward. We can't just keep saying, well, he didn't support this in 1990. 1990 was 30-something years ago. Nobody supported it 30 years ago. They didn't think it was possible.
It's very important to let people evolve and grow and, like you said, progress and develop, because I think, we're not as old as Biden, and we're not the same people we were 10 years ago, let alone how many years ago he was.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
I wasn't even out yet in 2008. So clearly, where were we going to go? I think I definitely progressed since 2008.
Chairman Walton, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think one thing that's very important about progressing in there was also a beautiful moment Biden said to Bernie where he's like, I can't do this without you, Bernie. And I feel that that really was very humble, and it showed that we are all in this together. You know, it's not just I'm the nominee, I'm on top. We need each other and need to have each other's backs. And I think that's such a beautiful example of what a leader should be.
Exactly. When the Democratic Party is united and we all come together, we can't be stopped. And so I think that all of us coming together and uniting, we will be quite powerful, and we can win. Not only can we win the presidency, we can retake the U.S. Senate, we can expand the House majority, and we can flip Wisconsin and make Wisconsin blue again. And I really hope that that's what we're going to try and do this upcoming election. And all the fighting, everything out the window for right now. We can fight all day come January. But for right now, our biggest issue is we have to get Donald Trump out of the White House and get science back in the White House, to get medical professionals back in the White House, and get competent, effective, efficient government back in place with a strong leader. And I think at this point, we have to elect Vice President Biden, and then we can figure it all out when we get past this.
Absolutely. I hope when the time is right, we can all find common ground, because I think if this epidemic has taught us anything, we are all in this together. You know, if China has an issue, it's not just China's problem. It's everyone's problem. If America's having a problem, it's everyone's problem. If the Republicans can't get it together, it's the Democrats and the whole country's problem. And I have to say, I'm really proud of our people, because we're the ones picking it up right now, aren't we? We're the ones making it.
And, you know, it's really it's been really humbling, looking back and seeing all the videos and the photos from Election Day, how people took it so seriously. You know, my right to vote, and come hell or high water, I'm going to cast my vote and make sure that people know my opinion. It's important. And if people can go stand out in the middle of a pandemic and a hailstorm and the hottest day of the year so far, look what win. Look what we can do in November. Hopefully this pandemic will be over and we'll have all of the polling places open, and then all of us will show up. You know, because it's important. Voting is very important. No matter who you're going to vote for, ideally I'd hope you would vote for a Democrat, but no matter who you're going to vote for, you have to get out there and make your voice heard.
Yes, and just to throw this out there, you know, especially as a person of color, you know, a lot of our people in the past have fought and died for this. You know, the very least we can do is take advantage of it.
Right. That's so true.
Chairman Walton, thank you so much for coming on the show. Come back anytime.
Absolutely. I'll be back whenever you need me.
Anytime, especially when November comes. Come back.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I'm going to see if I can try and bring Vice President Biden on here or something. We'll get whoever we can get here. Hopefully the Vice President. We'll get a Vice President to nominate, and we'll bring her on here too.
All right. And everyone watching, thank you for liking, subscribing, share this video if you care, and get out there and vote.
Out there and vote, folks.
Bye.
Bye.